There's been some sentiment in Ireland that the result of what's going to happen in Brexit is going to be affecting your country massively, disproportionately perhaps you could say than other member states, and yet in the negotiations Michel Barnier is representing the EU27 with equal parity in influence. And if I just read you a quote from Michelle O'Neill, who's a Sinn Féin Stormont leader, the DUP's support for the right-wing Tory Brexit means there is a greater onus on Dublin to use its influence at the negotiating table with other European states. What's your response to that?
First of all, I'd say it's Michelle O'Neill has an interest in ensuring that the Assembly is up and running in the North as well, that voice is heard. But no, I wouldn't agree with that. I mean, if you look at the three headlines that Michel Barnier has now, well, obviously there's citizens' rights, European citizens' rights and UK citizens' rights. There is the bill or the cost of withdrawal, and the third very highlight is the Good Friday Agreement, the peace agreement between North and South, and that is in place, and that is very important that is protected, and the common travel area. So just to give you a background, I mean, the reason Ireland is featuring so strongly in Michel Barnier's guidelines is because of work that's been done by the Irish government for since last June 12 months, ensuring that Ireland's position is understood and the impact, which is going to be significant, and some would even say even more significant than in the UK itself. So it's important. And Ireland, I mean, if you looked at what our Taoiseach has said, Leo Varadkar, he said, Ireland's issues are European issues. We're at the heart. We are one of the EU27. We are confident that our issues are reflected in the guidelines. We sit around the table with the 27, and we have an input there. So, I think from a starting point of view, and if we're going to get on to the next phase, which I hope we will, if sufficient progress is made, Ireland's issues are well at the centre there. Obviously, the border and what the future range is going to be is very important, and we want to move to that.
Are you happy with the progress that's being made and the pace of the progress?
No, I think it's very slow. I mean, we have
whose fault is that, do you reckon? Where does the fault lie? I would think the fault is coming until last Friday when Theresa May spoke in Florence. We didn't really have any clarity. We had, we'll have no border. UK government side?
No, UK government side, because the EU is sitting there waiting. We have our guidance. We know what we want. We just want them to come to the table with proposals. I mean, the UK is withdrawing. It's not an Irish policy. It's not an EU policy. It's a UK policy. And fair enough, respect that completely. Respect the decision of the people who voted in the United Kingdom. But there are serious issues that they need to address in terms of how are they going to address the border between North and South.
Were you happy with Theresa May's speech? Did that offer any further clarity? It seemed to be more moving forward towards a negotiating position. She indicated that maybe there won't be a fall off the cliff in March 2019, which is of a lot of comfort, in fact, to the Irish, that there will be a phase. Was it enough? Do you think it gave enough?
Not enough. I mean, we don't have enough. We don't have enough yet on the border issue, on the peace process. How is that going to be protected? Because that is a serious issue in terms of economic, social, political issue. It's really, really important. A lot of time has been invested in it, a lot of European time, American, Irish governments and the UK governments, a lot of time has been invested in that. It is extremely important. We don't want to return to any terms of a hard border, and I mean that in terms of social and movement of people.
That's been promised as well by Theresa May, but in sentiment only, not practicality.
She said that there won't be physical infrastructure.
Yeah.
Great, but what is going to happen?
I want to bring Stephen in here. We've spoken around this table about technology, how that can be a future possibility. I do agree with the fact that there hasn't actually been much. I mean, it's been 6 months since Article 50 now. This is an incredibly important issue in terms of peace and stability for an area of the EU and the UK.
Absolutely.
What's been the problem here? Do you see it?
Well, behind us in a room somewhere there, you'll see, is a meeting between David Davis and the President of the European Parliament, Mr. Tajani. And hopefully that will set off further discussions that lead to a really opening up of this area. It's incredibly important to Britain and to Ireland to have effectively its #1 EU trading nation, having the ability to have a free trade arrangement and freedom of movement, which you have in the common area. I'm invested in it in terms of my grandmother was Irish as well, so we want to see that friendly relationships going forward.
Should Ireland get a special status then in terms of the negotiating table, having this very special relationship with the UK in particular?
I've always argued they should. I've always argued they should have had a much stronger representation in this, and I've also argued that in the Council of Ministers, when they restricted the hands of Barnier by saying that they couldn't negotiate a free trade arrangement, that was wrong, and that would actually debilitate the Irish and UK trade in the future. And it's not as if Barnier doesn't have the chance to do so. He said very clearly in Strasbourg that he has the staff, the capability, the resources to conduct a free trade arrangement alongside the issue of the border requirements and other issues of the four principles. But the Council have rejected that opportunity and therefore given
So
no
it's
legal
about
right.
politics. Your thing is about politics rather than actual practicality.
Key thing is we need to make progress in the next 2 weeks.
Marcus, I'll bring you in because you're from the centre of Europe. You're not from the UK Ireland side. Would you be happy with any idea that the Ireland in the Brexit negotiations is given some kind of preferential treatment, particularly in terms of what they need from the negotiations? I mean, do you think Europe would buy into that concept?
I think that, well, of course, I fully agree on what you said, that it is vital for Ireland, even more than for the UK, what comes out of these negotiations. I think it was a huge fault by the European institutions and, I have to say and admit, by a lot of German politicians who made it very difficult for Theresa May right from the start when they said they're going to make no good deal for the UK, it would be very difficult negotiations. They said that right from the start. Mm-hmm. And this started the negotiations with a tone that shouldn't be between friends. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't with friends. Especially what Angela Merkel did, what Schäuble did, and many other German politicians was somehow hostile against the UK. And I don't understand this because it hasn't changed much. You've left the EU, okay, or you're about to leave it, but we can be friends still. Yeah. We can deal with each other. We have economic interests. Why shouldn't we go on?
Well,
in friendship.
Yeah.
Deirdre, last thoughts very quickly.
Well, she did, and a second point about Theresa, she mentioned the transition period. She also mentioned she wants it to be a single market and customs union in that transition period. Our hope and our wish is that we'll stay in the single market or in customs union into the future. So they're trading partners, trading friends. But
that positive message around the table. Thank you very much, Deirdre, Marcus and Stephen.